I'm Erin Fouberg, author of Human Geography for the AP course and Human Geography, People, Place, and Culture, and Understanding World Regional Geography. And I'm here to talk to you about scale. Scale is a fundamental concept in geography. Scale has two meanings. When you think about a map, scale is the distance on a map relative to the distance on Earth. And that's how most non-geographers think of scale. We just think of maps. When we think of geography, we think of map scale. Like 1 centimeter on the map is equal to 1 mile on the Earth, for instance. However, when geographers talk about scale, we generally are talking about scale in terms of a scale of analysis, the scope at which we are looking at a problem. So when we start doing research, we always think about, well, what scale are we analyzing this? So for instance, you can look at something at the global scale, at a regional scale, at a national scale, at a local scale, or even within a family, within a household. There's been some really richly interesting research done on kitchens, for instance, as a scale of analysis. So when you think about scale, there's multiple scales of analysis. There's not just 5. And what matters the most about scale is that you are conscious of it. You think about it, and you recognize that the scale at which we look at a problem is going to tell us a couple things. First of all, it'll tell us the pattern that we see on the map if what we're looking at is mappable. It'll also tell us, when we're looking at scale, how much detail we can see. So if we look at a map of, let's say, Africa, and at this scale, we can see potentially a city or a river, but we can't see nuances. We can't see details of that city. We can't see how the streets of the city are laid out. We'd have to zoom in to the local scale to see some detail of that city and to see patterns at that scale. So a classic example that we use in the first chapter of Human Geography and also in the first chapter of World Regional Geography is the concept of income. And you can look at the GNI, the gross national income per capita per country, and at that scale, at the global scale, you can see the global north and the global south, the wealthier countries and the poorer countries. We call them the higher income countries and the lower income countries. You can also then zoom into just one region, in this case, North America, and compare the provinces in Canada and the states in the United States and look at how wealth is distributed by province or state. And you see a totally different pattern. The coasts look different than the South, and Canada as a whole looks different than the rest of the United States in terms of distribution of wealth. You can also zoom in then a lot more and look at just the scale of Washington, D.C. At the scale of just Washington, D.C., this map is showing census tracts, and it's showing you wealth per census tract. And the way that it's measured in this case is by median household income. So the distribution of wealth in the city of Washington, D.C. and its Maryland and Virginia suburbs looks different than the distribution at the scale of North America, and that looks different than the distribution of wealth in the world. So when you say, like, for instance, the United States is a wealthy country, at the scale of the world, it looks that way. But when you zoom into North America, you can see that not all places have the same amount of wealth. And when you zoom into one city, you can see again that wealth is not distributed evenly. So scale matters. It matters a lot. It tells us what patterns we're going to see. It tells us what level of detail we're going to see. And because of that, it tells us what findings we're going to make, what generalizations we're going to make about anything that we're studying. One more thing to think about when you think about scale. What's happening at one scale of analysis, this is a big concept that you really need to know in order to think geographically. What's happening at one scale of analysis can affect and does affect what's happening at another scale. So for instance, in this new revised course description for Human Geography for the AP Human Geography course, the word sustainability comes up a lot of times. When you think about sustainability, you tend to think about it at a local kind of scale. What's sustainable in our local community, in our region? It's hard to make the entire world sustainable. So when you think about something like climate change, that's happening globally. There's local and regional things that are occurring that create this globally scaled impact, but then that globally scaled impact impacts what we can do in terms of sustainability at a local or at a regional scale. So scale, it includes movement. What's happening at one scale affects another scale, and what is a possible solution depends in one place on what's happening at other scales. So it's not something that's easily controlled. And when you change the scale of analysis, what problems you see changes and what solutions are possible change as well. Thanks for listening. Keep thinking geographically.